Okay guys, this is going to be the start of the pan to cooking to table to education video on grass-fed versus conventional beef. And one of the first things that I'm going to take you through is how I season my cast iron skillet. So let me flip this camera around, show you what it looks like when it's clean but it hasn't been seasoned, and then we're going to go through the seasoning process. Remember, there are 6,000 different ways to do this. This is just the way that I do it. The oven I have at 400. It's heating up right now. It's been heating up now for probably, I think, about 10 minutes. And this is a pan that's been cleaned, and it's literally no seasoning, no oil in the bottom of it at all. Now I'm going to stick it in the oven for about 10 minutes and pull it out. Now there's a number of ways that you can do this. You can put some duck fat in there, you can put some olive oil or something in there, avocado oil. I would try to keep it with natural oils and not any kind of hydrogenated oils like vegetable oils, seed oils, things of that nature, canola oil, stuff like that. Throw all that junk away. It ain't no good for you anyway. I just got some regular old butter here. Gonna go ahead and coat the bottom of this pan. See, there's some areas right here already starting to dry up. And we'll leave that butter in the bottom of that pan and let that pan cool down and let it soak in all that oil. Okay, I let this pan cool down for about 20-25 minutes, and then anything that wasn't pulled into the metal as it cooled down, I went ahead and wiped out the sopping material in the bottom of the pan. Now this pan to me is seasoned, and I'll go through a couple times of doing this. Even after I cook my steaks and stuff in this pan, if I can try to just wipe it out without cleaning it with anything, that's fine. That's what I prefer. But if you gotta clean it, go get some kosher salt from the store and just use some lukewarm water and that kosher salt and dig that kosher salt down in there, and it'll get all your grit and stuff out of there. And actually use your hands to push that kosher salt around inside it, and it'll knock all the material and stuff out, and it'll actually help re-season that pan. Wash it all out and then re-season it again and you're fine. But that kosher salt, the big giant kernels of grit, will help clean that pan real nice if you ever have to clean it. Anyhow, now we're going to get into prepping the steak. Alright, here we are. I tried to get identical weight steaks as close to as I possibly could. And you can see here, this is just a conventional steak that was on sale for $8.99 a pound. You can see that right here on the bottom. It was $8.99 a pound, and this is a choice steak. Now there are three different kinds of steak. There is a select, a choice, and a prime. I try to tell people to at least stick with choice and above. Choice or prime if you can. Those are your best cuts. Choice is the most common. Here is this 1 pound steak that I got for $8.99. As a member, it would have been $12.99 had I not been a member. This is a grass-fed steak, grass finished. The company is called Strauss, free raised from American pastures, grass fed, 100% grass fed and grass finished, raised on open pastures, never raised in feedlots, never administered antibiotics or growth hormones. Agriculturally sustainable and environmentally friendly. Born and raised in the USA by family farmers. So, this steak for for 1 pound cost me $26.77. A good quality ribeye most of the time, unless it's on sale, is going to cost somewhere between $22 to $27 a pound. This is $25.99 a pound. Let's open these up. Now, what can we see different between these two steaks? This is the conventional steak and this is the grass-fed steak. Notice that the color is different. The conventional steak has a completely different color than the grass-fed steak. Notice the fat striations in the middle are much larger and the marbling is fewer and far between here, but the fat striations that you see are much thicker and they don't have an appealing color like you would normally want. These are much smaller, it has better marbling, and it almost looks like it would be a more tender meat. Now, I've seen some people say that conventional meat, when they cook it, they find that it is more tender and it is more flavorful because that's what they were raised on. That's what they were, brought up to believe is a good quality meat. And here's a grass-fed meat. Some people say it has a sweeter taste, it has more of a gamey taste, it has a grassy taste to it. Whatever you will, there is a difference between the two. Now, arguably, we could fight about the science and say that there's almost no more benefit to a grass-fed steak as there is a conventional steak. We could say that grass-fed steak has higher omega-3, it has higher vitamin K2 count, it's just more nutritionally appropriate for you, which that would be correct. Something that's closer to wild or in its natural habitat would be the most beneficial way to go. But something that has been raised in a feedlot and forced to grow, I'm going to throw an analogy at you and then I want you to wrap your mind around it. If you could think about these two different animals in two different ways, this grass-fed animal could live up to 24 years and be not obese, no medical problems, no nothing at all. And it could be perfectly healthy. This grain-fed feedlot animal could be fed grain and sugars and maple dressings and everything else that they put in the feed and live up to 18 months and send to slaughter. This animal, from the time it was born, was raised for the purpose of food. Can you wrap your mind around eating something that has been slowly dying from the time that it was born and raised and cared for to be food for somebody in a feedlot? This animal would have probably only lived a couple years with a feedlot type nutrition profile. This animal could have lived 24 years or more, possibly, on grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised. We could even go even further. Conventional beef doesn't necessarily mean that it's all been grain-fed. The majority of animals that are born, regardless if they're feedlot or grain-fed, have to start out on a pasture somewhere. There are legalities that separate the two of these, why something can be called grass-fed and why something can't be called grass-fed. Some states regulate the fact that it needs to have at least 30% of its life fed grass in order for it to be called grass-fed. Something that's called grass-fed and grass-finished, some people argue that it can have a break in between. Maybe the majority of its life in the beginning, it was raised on grass, and in the end it was finished on grass, but in between, it was not. Then you could also look at it and say that's not true. They have third-party sources out now that regulate and inspect and make sure that the labels and stuff that are being put on these packages are what they say they are, grass-fed and grass-finished. I can tell you for myself, my first-hand experience, that a conventional steak to me does taste better than a grass-fed, grass-finished steak. Because it's what I've been raised on. It's all that I know. We could get in the mix of, what is legal, what's not legal. There are some people that say that cow that is conventionally fed and raised can eat grass one time in its life and be considered grass-fed. The government got out of what is grass-fed and what is grass-finished and the labeling and the restrictions behind it years and years ago, which left it up to third-party sources to figure out who's telling the truth and who's not telling the truth. So it's up to you to do your homework. And honestly, the best way that you can support any kind of ethical farming is by supporting local. Find a farmer that you support locally, check out their operation, look at how they raise their animals and stuff. That's the only way that you're actually going to know what you're getting. If you're buying it from a big box store, it doesn't matter if it's Whole Foods, it doesn't matter if it's Home Goods or whatever it is, you do not know what you're getting. All you can do is trust the company at that point. A local farmer or local support is the best way to do any kind of food that comes from animals, or even vegetables for that source, if that's what you're into. Okay, let's prepare these. They've been out for a little over 30 minutes. The number one key that most people often get wrong is when you cook a good steak, it needs to be at room temperature. A lot of people take it right out of the refrigerator and they put it right in the skillet and they start cooking it, and then it comes out tough. It comes out tasting like cardboard. It's terrible. The flavor's not there. That is not the number one key to any kind of good steak, is by taking it out and letting it get to room temperature before you even cook it. So these have been out for about a half hour, 45 minutes. They're pretty cool at room temperature. They're not cold, they're not warm. They're right where I want them to be. So now, if you got a good seasoned skillet, you really don't even need to season these, but some people will coat them in oil. They'll put a little salt and pepper, white pepper, black pepper, a little good, like a real fine, like a truffle salt or Redmond's real salt or something like that, or just any kind of regular salt you have around, which I typically don't tend to use, but I like good quality salt. I'm going to leave these alone. I'm not going to touch these. I think the pan's seasoned good enough and they're at room temperature, and I want to taste test these. I want to see what the difference is. I want to be open, honest, and raw with this, and we're just going to leave them flavorless and then maybe a dash of salt when they come out, and that's it. So let's cook them. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to get this skillet piping hot. I want the skillet hot. I'll put it on like medium-high heat and then come back after I can barely put my hand above it. Okay, we've got a nice hot pan now. Just light smoke coming off the top of it. The thicker the steak, the easier it is to get a good cook out of it. The thinner, the easier it is for it to dry out and cook the steak in an undesirable way. This particular one I've had about 4 minutes on one side. This one's about 4 minutes as well. You can even see the color difference while it's cooking. This is a more vibrant, natural color, where this is already like really dark. This is the grass-fed, grass-finished. This is the conventional. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edges on the fattier parts. I'm going to render it down some. I'm going to let some of the fat cook off the edge into the pan. I've got about 4 or 5 minutes on each side. I know some people will be like, oh my god, that's too long. It's just how I like it. This one's going to be like a medium. I'm going to let them sit here for about 7 to 10 minutes and just kind of cool down and let it reabsorb. A lot of it's going to raise in temperature as it sits there another 5 to 10 degrees, and then as it cools back down some, it will actually start to suck some of the juice back into the meat. That's why you always let them sit before you cut into them. Okay, we've got a taste tester. There's one. And let's get the other one. does not know which is which. I did not say anything. And we're going to let him try it. I know it's not like super done, but I don't like my steak super done.
I like it on the rare side anyway, so.
Yeah. If you guys don't know, this is Angie's brother. So. And I didn't do anything to these. I did not salt them. I left them exactly as they were and just seasoned the pan only. Just because I didn't want anything to affect the flavor of these. Just like thoughts, everything. Whatever comes to mind about both.
Well, obviously this one's way fattier.
Yeah.
And there's grass-fed. And which one?
There's grass-fed and conventional.
You said that's conventional?
Yeah.
Grass-fed.
Yeah. How do you know that, though?
Just the taste. It tastes...
Well,
first of all, visually, I would say again, with the fat...
Yeah.
Seems like more like conventional.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus something like this where...
It's more lean,
right.
More natural.
Correct.
What about flavor?
Flavor? This one had just more natural...
Like more gamey flavor?
Not really. It's not gamey at all. Just texture-wise.
Yeah.
This one's a little tougher. This one's not as tough.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, just right away. I just can tell this is...
Which one do you actually prefer?
This one.
Okay, that is the grass-fed one.
Taste.
That's the $27 a pound steak versus the $8.99 a pound steak. So,
I know my steaks.
Yeah. All right. Well, there we have it. All right, John, thank you. Okay, so this is exactly how I clean my cast iron skillet. Literally. I may take like a wooden spoon instead of like a metal spoon and scrape some of the junk off the bottom, but preferably not cheap napkins that fall apart. That's what I'm using right now. I just wipe it out and then leave some of the grease in the bottom. That's fine. People know where this is a functioning house. We are going to make noises, and there is going to be conversations in the background, right?
Uh-huh.
Correct. TV episodes and the Lucifer shows and the whatever else she watches. Didn't I find that show?
No.
Yes, I did.
No.
Yeah. When you came out of the bedroom the one night while I was watching that show, and I was like, "Oh, this is a pretty good show." Yeah, I did find that show.
No.
You're not taking credit. You're not taking credit for that one. That was me. All me. She can't take credit for that one. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that grass-fed beef is higher in omega-3s and CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, and lower in omega-6s. And despite what most people say is healthy, most of the nuts and stuff that we consume that are listed as heart healthy by the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association, things like that, have like 23,000 times the amount of omega-6 to omega-3 count. So when you think about it, grass-fed beef has substantially higher omega-3 count versus conventional beef. A lot argue that it's not to the extent of where it can really make a difference in your body inflammation-wise, CRP level-wise. When you have chronically high omega-6 count going into your body all the time, and this could be people that do the keto diet that are constantly snacking on nuts all the time. Nuts in general have a substantially higher omega-6 count versus omega-3. And conventional beef has a really high omega-6 count versus omega-3, as to where grass-fed, grass-finished beef, it's more balanced. The CLA count is higher, the iron is higher, the DHA, EPA count is more balanced. Omega-3 is essential because your body can take omega-3 and turn it into whatever omega it needs. If it needs to break down omega-3 into a 6, it can. If it needs to use 3 and 6 to make 9, it can. 3 is the most neutral omega that there is, so why not eat foods that are more balanced with omega-3? So that's where I'm kind of going with all this. It's just a matter of choosing what you can afford. Is there anything wrong with conventional beef? No, it's better than eating anything else junk-wise. Conventional beef is fine, but remember the different types of beef. There is select, choice, and prime. Choice being the middleman, which I'd mostly choose, and prime being the big dog, which is the best cut based on marbling and fat content. That's how they decipher the 3 different categories. And the quality of it, of course. But anyhow, that's going to wrap up this video, and we're going to go ahead and turn it over to you guys in the comment section and see what you would like to see more of. Please let me know what type of videos you would like for me to do in the future. If you have not liked the video, please like the video and subscribe. Remember, when ads pop up when you're on a subscriber's or when you're on a creator's channel, if you watch the ads all the way through and you continue on to the video without hitting skip ad, the creator gets paid on that video. You don't have to pay them anything. That ad that you've seen actually pays them, but watching it all the way through helps. If you skip the video, that creator does not get paid, and basically the information is completely free, and for the time that they put in, they're not gaining anything other than helping somebody, which to some people that may be great. But my channel is monetized because I do put a lot of time into this stuff. $27 steaks and stuff like that, just so I can do reviews, and just so I can bring things to you guys so you guys can see. And it'll take forever to make that money back, YouTube wise. But please like, subscribe, watch the ads all the way through if you can. If it's a 5-minute ad, I can see why you would skip that. But if it's 30 seconds, please be kind enough to give that time to the creator so they can at least make a couple pennies for the video they made. Thank you guys, I appreciate you. Be blessed.